Thursday, June 12th, here on the Just Baseball Show. You got Aram Layton and I am Peter Apple again. Three straight episodes with us two. Do you think people are getting tired of us?
I was thinking about that. Yeah, I wanted to make a joke about like, oh, it must be so nice to get a breather from Jack, but then I'm thinking like, no, because that means they got to hear us for 3 days in a row. Yeah, I'd imagine it's probably been enough of us.
So we apologize, but we are
Yeah,
going to try our best here on this
I'll try
July.
to be somebody else today.
Yeah, we'll try and be smart, measured. We won't yell at each other.
Tolerable.
I've
I
kind of
might
gone.
have good movie takes this time. We'll see.
There's no way. That's something yet you'll never have, but it's okay because you fixed it with the music stuff. But let's get after it. We're gonna try our best, and what we are doing in this episode is we are talking about underrated headlines. There are a lot of teams playing really good baseball, a lot of players who are putting up incredible numbers, and not a lot of people are talking about them. So that's what Arm and I are here to do today, and it's all brought to you by the sportsbook born in Vegas. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JustBaseball to get that first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. Right after Arm and I are done recording this episode, we are hopping on a plane to go to Omaha, Nebraska for the College World
Two
Series.
planes.
Two planes. You're flying from Florida. I'm flying from New York. You got a little bit of a
Well, no, do you,
connection.
do you not have a connection? Do you have a direct guy?
I haven't even checked yet.
I
That's where I'm
don't
at
know
on
if
the.
there's many directs to Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm hopping on two planes. I'm going to be told to enjoy two flights, and we'll go from there.
And yeah, so we're going to be making our way over there. And if you want to use promo code JustBaseball on BetMGM to place a little bit of dollars on a College World Series future, I'm going to be coming out with mine tonight. You can
Ooh.
obviously jump on mine, or you could just pick a different one. You ready to get straight into it, or you got anything on Omaha right now? Who are you
I,
eyeing, by the way, for the College World Series?
I'm excited. I haven't dug into the odds yet. Obviously, we did the preview of just like the top prospects, and I know that's not really always what determines the winner, but there's a pretty stark gap, I think, between like pro level talent on like a Arkansas Razorback team, even compared to like an Arizona or a Louisville. So that I have caught myself being pulled towards that, but then I look at the odds and it's like Arkansas and LSU are priced at that. So I don't know. I'm really excited to hear. Don't spoil it. I'm excited to hear what your pick is, but I've been really fascinated by how like Coastal Carolina is what tied for the third favorite.
Yeah.
That's fun. I would love to see them make some noise. I'm not gravitating anywhere yet. I think I'm going to use at least one of the two flights to dig a little bit deeper, but I look at the Arkansas team, I know they're the favorite, and it's so hard to you know poke a hole in that team right now. But I also think LSU is a force.
I loved the shot on Coastal Carolina, and I loved what their manager was saying after their game, where people were asking him, "Is this a Cinderella story?" And he was like, "Stop all
Hell no.
that. Stop all that. We have like the ninth most wins in college baseball history. We've been to Omaha multiple times. This
They've
team
won it.
they've won it, right? They have this crazy streak of winning series dating into Omaha as well. And I'd have to pull up the numbers, but this team has been incredible. Their pitching staff is out of this world. They can absolutely win it, and I'm glad that BetMGM and folks all have them as the third best team in this
Uh,
tournament. This tournament is wide open, but at the same time, Arkansas and LSU are juggernauts. And doesn't it
yeah.
always feel like, especially in March Madness, in the years that the field is wide open, the favorite wins it. And when
Yeah.
everyone's thinking about the favorites,
Yeah.
someone from wide open makes it. That's how it feels to me, that everyone's looking for that next Cinderella story, and it'll end up being Arkansas and LSU. So you will see my pick coming out very soon. But it's time to talk Major League Baseball. And our first underrated storyline, the Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays offense since May 1st has been fantastic. And they are now the first wild card team in the American League. They rank third in batting average, third in runs, third in OBP, fourth in OPS, third in WRC plus, and first in F War, led by Alejandro Kirk, who has been awesome. Your favorite player, Addison Barger, of course, Vladdy, George Springer, Nathan Lucas, Bo Bichette, Ernie Clement. All of those names have a WRC plus above 115. The Blue Jays, right? We're recording on Wednesday before they play against the Cardinals. But they went into St. Louis and won the first two games of that series and are going for the sweep with Eric Lauer on the mound, who's also been awesome for them. The Blue Jays are just rolling.
It's funny because I had the one tweet that I guess just kind of got to Blue Jays fans about Andres Jimenez, and just like I still can't fathom how they took on that contract and parted with assets to do it. And then since then, I think he's actually been swinging it a lot better. But what's amazing is like we talked about it, like how valuable is second base defense? Well, if the rest of your lineup is raking, a lot more valuable. The problem was like when you had just a glove first second baseman early in the year and the rest of your team wasn't really swinging it, like it's like, oh, well, we need offense wherever we can get it. And it's kind of tough to punt a position right there. But right now, I mean, you look across that lineup, but you already laid it all out. But what's amazing to me is, yeah, like I honestly didn't know that Bo Bichette has already gotten his WRC plus back up over 100 at 110. I clearly you couldn't miss Kirk doing what he was doing, but even Springer, who got off to that like nuclear start to the season, yeah, he slowed down, but he's still playing really well. So you look top to bottom in this lineup, it's a lot of above average offensive production. And then I do like the bench. Like Miles Straw is back to usable again. I'm so pumped for Davis being back, and I know he's not playing a ton, but Davis Schneider is absolutely a guy that is an asset off the bench to crush lefties and can plug in at different spots. Tyler Heineman's been the best player on the planet, as you mentioned before. And I still think Alan Rodin, like, it was a really rough big league debut. This guy's a good player. He's going to settle in eventually. And I think he's starting to even a little bit. They don't have like the crazy firepower, but you're seeing a lot of guys take a step forward, maybe guys that were underperforming last year, getting back to where they can be. And maybe there's some length to this lineup now all of a sudden, if the Bargers of the world can keep it up.
And it's got to be so refreshing for the Blue Jays. In their past couple of games, at least in the past week, they get punched in the mouth and then they punch right back. And it's really everybody in this lineup kind of doing their part. When normally watching Blue Jays games over the past couple of years, there's not a lot of fight in this team. When they go down, they don't often come back. When they win, but there wasn't a lot of that, magic, that grit. And I see it in this lineup. And speaking about grit, guy with an OPS with two strikes who leads in OPS when there is two strikes against him, Alejandro Kirk.
Yeah, I gotta apologize. I clowned that extension. I think Jack did too. So make him apologize too.
Oh, I
Toronto
will.
fans. I didn't like the extension. I really didn't. I thought it was. I didn't think Kirk was the type of player that I would want to give that kind of extension to. But I think you look at it, even over the last couple of years, even when he was leaving a bit to be desired offensively, he was still turning in a 2.3 and a 2.8 F4 because he's defending well and he's receiving so well. So you imagine if he can get close to what he was doing offensively in 2022, that's a 4-win season there. So I think potentially a little too harsh on Kirk, who sneaky also still just 26.
Yeah.
Like nuts. He debuted at 21 years old. I'm sorry. Like I was wrong. I think this, and not just because he's off to a good start this year, it kind of forced me to reframe my thought process. I was just talking about how the offensive barrier is so low to be a regular catcher if you're a decent catcher, and Kirk has turned himself into that. So I mean, it's been cool to see. And if you look at the expected stats, he's actually been a little unlucky.
Yeah.
So I have not known like what to do with this team, and it's been difficult comparing them to the Rays. But now I think they're separating themselves. We'll see if they can continue to build on it. But the most fascinating part that I keep going back to is you have Anthony Santander. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about him in a moment. And Dalton Varsho on the IL. I mean, Varsho, of course, he's going to get up there and he's going to defend at an elite clip at the very least and run into some homers. But Santander, like at this point, for the offense to be doing what it's doing without him, you got to feel really good, because you have some concern that like maybe he comes back and still doesn't play better. But you also have this idea that, well, what if he does, right? So I think it's really encouraging to see them performing without him. And then if he does come back and he struggles still continuously, you know that the offense can weather the storm. But you also have this idea that, okay, well, if he gets back to anything close to what he was last year, think about where that could elevate this offense even further.
Just to wrap up on the Kirk part, walking 9.2%, only striking out 5.8% in May.
Yeah.
He's hitting 393 with a 175 WRC plus, and he's put up 2.0 FWAR because his defense is elite on top of it. I mean, everything is working for him. We talk about Cal Raleigh. We're going to talk about another underrated catcher later, but really, I mean, we talked about Jeremy Pena potentially being the most underrated player in baseball this year. I mean, is Alejandro Kirk not second?
He might. I'm looking at the underlying data, dude.
It's
Holy crap!
good. It's really
I'm a
good.
moron. A 90th percentile of 108 and a hard hit rate of 57%. This
Yeah.
little muscle hamster is ripping balls.
Ripping balls, playing great defense, receiving behind the plate. And the Blue Jays pitching has also been great as well. But yeah, going back to Anthony Santander, 5 years, 92.5 million. And he's gotten off to a horrendous start, and he's all obviously been injured as well. I was listening to some Blue Jays talk on YouTube, and the hosts on that show, I forget what show it was. I just clicked a
Oh, you
YouTube video.
scumbag.
I fucked up. I was just watching it, so I can't give credit. I apologize. But what they were saying is that they think that Santander was playing through this injury and really
Okay.
trying to prove it to the fans. Now, again, that was their guess, but the way they broke it down, I was like, I kind of get it. I mean,
He's
this
not
guy,
that bad.
no, he's not this
Like
bad.
we said he was a yellow flag free agent, but like, come on. Like
Yeah.
he's a decent hitter. Like he shouldn't be this bad.
I mean,
I could understand that.
in 21 games since May 1st, I mean, he's hitting 186, but really the telltale stat to me is a 286 slugging percentage.
Yeah,
Like,
like come
even
on.
when Santander is not doing well, he's still going to clip a few home runs, every couple of days, right? He only has 2 home runs in those 21 games and almost no extra base hits. Like, that's not Anthony
Yeah,
Santander.
no.
Even with the yellow flag, we were more talking about, yeah, the defense is not something that you're going to like. He's probably not going to hit for a very high average. He's probably going to strike out a decent bit, but he's still going to slug 460 to 500 and give you enough value to make you think this contract isn't that bad. That was, I think, our view of it,
Yeah,
where
because he
we were
wasn't
like,
going to walk, and that was the concern. So it was like, okay, he's got to hit 30 plus homers to get that OPS to the high 700s. But again, thought he could do something close to that.
and the offense has been leading this team, but they've also gotten some excellent pitching performances, both in the bullpen and the starting rotation. And they have been one of the better pitching staffs in baseball since May 1st
How?
and been one of the better bullpens without Jeff Hoffman. Jeff
Yeah,
Hoffman, since May 1st, has thrown 14 innings. He's got a 10.43 ERA. And another great reliever that they have, or at least he's been in the past, Chad Green, has also been one of their worst pitchers with a 4.70. But Yario Rodriguez has found a home in this bullpen in 15 appearances over 19 and 2/3. He's got a 1.37. Brendan Little can basically say the same thing with a 1.59. Eric Lauer has entered this rotation and dominated to a 1.64 ERA in 22 innings. And Jose Barrios is just doing Jose Barrios shit.
and they're
48 innings to a 2.77.
and they're doing that with Bowden Francis basically being a third down punt every
And
single
Jeff
start.
Hoffman, even worse.
Yeah, yeah. Also, timeout. Alejandro Kirk with 2 strikes. I know you said the OPS, but he's slashing 354, 398, 495 with 2 strikes.
He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
I don't understand. I might just
It's
owe an
peak male
apology.
performance.
I'm sorry. Blue Jays, Toronto, everything. Also, they're Max Scherzer's thumb once he deems it good to go. He cannot be worse than Bowden Francis. I promise. I would guarantee that. And then I think at some point this year we're gonna get the return of Alek Manoah. That'll be an interesting scenario there. Um, and also it's trickled down. I was ready to jump ship on Orelvis Martinez Foley, and I kind of did when we did our Blue Jays rankings. That guy's been going nuclear basically ever since we put out our Blue Jays rankings. So even in AAA, Orelvis Martinez showing signs of life. I don't. Never mind. Actually, he showed signs of life, and now he's
Dang
out
it.
for his last 16. I was about to pull it up. He had homered 4 times in 3 games, and then since then, he's 0 for his last 15. But he was doing stuff.
Could Trey Savage help this team this year?
Yes. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Also, I was just catching up with Joey Loperfido. Horrible first month. He has been going nuts in
Of course
AAA
he
as
has.
well over the last
Everyone's
month.
hitting. It's amazing in Toronto right now. And they're also, like Jack even mentioned, he was like, they built a barrier in Toronto. Like, once you go there, it's a graveyard for other teams. The Blue Jays are one of the best home teams in baseball.
It's incredible. 25 games for Loperfido, 326, 423, 485, or 483. It's a 906 OPS. So, like, even some guys that they could potentially move for more pitching if they wanted to. You Savage, though, to answer your question, people might be like, oh, but he started in low A and, like, he was there for 6 starts. No way they're going to be so bullish that they bring him up to the big leagues. No, I think you're about to see this thing go into hyperdrive. They wanted to be careful with you Savage, have him pitch in warm weather. There's no bigger gap, I think, geographically from one like low A to high A than Dunedin, Florida to Vancouver, Canada. Like, so they didn't really want you Savage, I think, throwing in the cold early in the year, so far away from the complex. So, like, dude, you're going to dominate high A hitters or low A hitters. The same thing. You might as well just be focusing on yourself and your stuff. So he made more starts at low A than people would have expected. Then he only needed to make 4 starts in high A where they're like, all right, seen enough. And he's already up in double. So I think when I wrote up my draft report on him, I said I think he could be the first arm, from that draft into the big leagues. I think there's still a chance that he could be one of the first guys up there, and I wouldn't rule out him getting up there to help them this year.
Interesting. So the Blue Jays are freaking awesome. So
Yeah, I'm just gonna totally upend everything I said before. Maybe they get Jimmy Garcia back, Nick Sandlin in the bullpen as well. Like all of a sudden, they've got some more options. So they're gonna be buyers.
and they
That's
can make the
for sure.
playoffs. I mean, the American League stinks. It
Yeah.
does. I mean, it's like one team goes on a little bit of a run and they're automatically one of the best teams in the American League. Like the Astros are playing great baseball. They're now the third favorite to win the American League pennant just because they won a few games in a row and they've been playing good baseball. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. It's just to show that the American League is so wide open. I mean, nobody in the Central outside of the Tigers has really taken hold.
Yeah.
The American League East, I mean, the Blue Jays are in second. The Rays
Yeah.
are playing okay. The Red Sox are not playing all that well, and we know what's happening with the Orioles. The Mariners are on a slide.
No,
The
what's happening with
Rangers
the
are
Orioles?
below the Angels. The Blue Jays might be the first team in the wild card. They can make some noise. Why not?
I just feel like I'm just like again. I feel like the Mike Francesa Loud House clips where it's just like if you just paired what I said like 2 weeks ago against the Blue Jays about the Blue Jays against what I'm saying now, I'd just be arguing with myself. But I mean, that's baseball though. It's so fluid. Also, just to if Blue Jays fans are just feeling super giddy, I'll give you one more positive. On our top 100, one of the biggest risers was Arjun Amala from 97 to 50, I think. So like it's all of a sudden positive times with the Blue Jays over here.
Is it time to extend Ross Atkins?
Oh, let's not get carried away here.
Yes, I get carried away. All right, let's go over to the Chicago Cubs. And when you think Chicago Cubs, you think offense, and you think about a couple of really good starting pitching performances lately. And what you don't think about is the bullpen. And what have we been talking about all season long? Cubs got to upgrade this bullpen. That is the one major hole in this team. I think they felt disrespected and they have been just dominating since. Since May 1st, the Chicago Cubs bullpen has a 2.05 ERA, ranks number one in baseball, 1.09 whip, second in Major League Baseball. And they've only blown one save. That is the least in baseball, again, since May 1st. Aram, they have four relievers who haven't allowed a run since May 1st. Can you guess them?
Four relievers who haven't won since May 1st. I know it's got to be Drew Pomeranz, and the only reason I've kept tabs on him is because Just Baseball broke that him signing with the Mariners. He's not even with them anymore this
Is,
year.
is that the best signing of the offseason?
It,
Kind of.
did they claim him? How'd they even get him? He signed to the Mariners.
You reported it. You're
Yeah,
the
I
one
know.
who reported.
I reported the signing of the Mariners. I don't know how the hell he got to the Cubs. Palencia has been stupid.
He's been stupid. He has 5 saves. He's been electric, but he has allowed a run. He's got a 1.88 ERA in 14 innings. I'll give you a hint. Two of the guys are former failed starters. And then the other guy is just an old lefty who
It's
keeps
Chris
throwing.
Flexen out here, just
Chris
tossing zeros.
Chris Flexen has thrown
What the
17 innings.
fuck?
He's striking out 5 per 9, and he's got a 0 ERA since May 1st.
You know, I'm looking at how they acquired each of these guys too. The whole bullpen. It's all none of them are internal. It's free agent in 25, free agent in 25, free agent in 24, trade 25, purchased. They purchased Drew Pomeranz 25, like 25 being the year, obviously. Brad Keller, free agent 25. Ryan Presley, trade 25. The only homegrown arm currently in their bullpen that has been acquired outside of the last 2 years is Daniel Palencia.
Your two favorite GMs, Jed Hoyer and Ross Atkins, are geniuses. Geniuses.
I like Hoyer. Ross Atkins, yeah.
Well,
But I mean, but the thing is like, I would look at this scenario right now and say, oh my gosh, we are so fortunate. Let's bolster this bullpen up. Like that's
yes.
still like I just
Like is
like
Caleb
Caleb
Thiel?
Thielbar. I
Yeah.
hate facing that guy in MLB the Show. It's a tunneling nightmare, no doubt about it. But
And he's a tunneling nightmare in real life. 12
I
and two thirds,
guess
no runs allowed. And that last guy, so it was Chris Flexen, Drew Pomeranz, Caleb Thielbar, and Brad Keller. Just
I
the
mean,
the
what?
four horsemen.
Here's the problem though.
Here's the
Just to
problem.
pour a little water on this. There's one guy in this bullpen averaging more than 9 strikeouts per night, more than a strikeout per inning.
What, you don't like getting outs? You're not a fan of grounders and flyouts?
I prefer my at least a couple big whiff guys.
I mean,
But I mean, this is super encouraging.
they
Again,
have Daniel
I thought it'd be a
Palencia.
revolving door of middle relief guys.
It is, but those revolving door guys are awesome now. So
Yeah.
like you were right, except the door is not revolving. They're mainstays and they're shoving.
Yep. So I mean, it's wild. I do you think it continues though?
I mean, do I think Caleb Thielbar, Drew Pomeranz, Chris Flexen, and Brad Keller start allowing runs eventually? No, I don't. I think it's going to be incredible. No, I mean, they are. The Cubs need to bolster their bullpen, but in a time where you lost Steele, Shota is still not back yet. You need them to come through for you in the meantime until you get to the deadline. Like, can they withstand the heat until Jed Hoyer is able to go get bullpen arms? Yes, I do. And that's all they need because the offense is so good and the starting rotation is pretty damn solid. I mean, Cade Horton is still trying to settle in a little bit. You see Colin Ray start to regress a little bit. And then when I look at the bullpen, the only guy who hasn't been any good is Ryan Presley, like
Yeah,
the main
which is
guy that they
crazy.
brought in.
Yeah.
So almost I don't want Jed Hoyer going after like good relievers. Get the worst guys in the world.
Who are old as shit. They're all like 38, 37 too. This reminds me of like 2017 Marlins. People were talking about Marlins fans were saying like, oh yeah, the rotation's always been an issue with the Yelich, Stanton, Ozuna, Realmuto teams. So they decided to build a super pen, and by super pen it was Junichi Chizawa and
God.
who was horrible, and a 37-year-old Brad Ziegler. It turned out to not be a super pen,
Dude,
but I think there's more options here. There's of these older guys, there's a lot of options, and then of course they're gonna go get a leverage arm at some point.
yeah,
I think, but the big part is they needed guys that could even just get them to leverage. I didn't
yeah.
think they even had that at points going into this year, so they clearly have that, and that's a really encouraging aspect of this whole thing.
Do you think that the Cubs bullpen has the earliest bedtime among any unit in baseball?
Fair. Very possible. They need to add Kikuchi to that
Yes.
bullpen to really push it across the finish line,
Well,
though.
no, isn't he not an early bedtime guy? He's just when he goes to bed, he's waking up about an hour
You
before the game.
when you sleep 15 hours, you're going to bed early and you're sleeping in late. You're
That's
doing
still
both.
one of my favorite stories
It's
since we
one of
started
the best.
covering, since we started doing the Just Baseball show that you say Kikuchi sleeps like 12 to 15 hours a night.
Well, it was also because it was like, yeah, he struggled today because he only got 9
10.
hours.
Yeah, it's like, what? Are you a toddler?
It's sick. He's recovering like none other.
And he's just coming off a pretty damn good performance. All right, next one up. Matt Chapman unfortunately got injured. And Patrick Lyons, who I think is such a phenomenal writer, he just wrote up the Giants Notebook, which is a bunch of different notes on Chapman, Willie Adames, and Casey Schmidt. And he was there to kind of break it down. So Chapman was placed on the 10-day injured list for right hand inflammation on Tuesday, retroactive to June 9th. Diving back to first base on Sunday, he jammed his throwing hand. But the tough guy, I mean, he stayed in the game, but the injury clearly got to a point where he couldn't stomach it. And then manager Bob Melvin said on Tuesday, and I quote from the article, how long it's going to be is still to be determined. He's going to see Dr. Stephen Shin on Friday in LA. We'll have a better idea on how far it's going to be, but it could be more than 10 days. Not ideal for a Giants team that is looking for bats, but at the same time, that great comeback against Colorado on Tuesday, and they have won six straight as we are recording. We'll see if they push it to seven against the Rockies again. Casey Schmidt, your guy, is about to fill in. What do you think when you hear this?
Well, I'm happy for Casey. The one thing that no one's going to be able to match the defense of a Matt Chapman, but at least where you're going to plug in a guy at third base who can really pick it. I mean, this is a guy that was a third baseman in college and is so good defensively that they've stuck him at shortstop a lot in his big league career so far, which is, I think, something that he didn't have a ton of experience doing. So I think playing a regular third base, he's going to grade out much better than the overall defensive numbers have probably shown this far. Definitely excited about that side of things, but there's no doubting the offensive hit that they take there because I mean, I just look straight to Willie Adames and I say like, it's time to get going now. Like you got to really, really get going here because he needs to pick up the slack. You look across the rest of the lineup. Ramos is going to do his thing. Jung Hoo Lee is going to do his thing, and Wilmer Flores is going to give you solid power here and there. But who else is going to step up, right? Like I know that they moved off of Lamont Wade. Is Dom Smith going to be much of a difference? Like Yastrzemski's a league average hitter. Like who is going to pick up the slack? It has to be Willie Adames, and that's where I look there. But then I think you look at a Casey Schmidt and just if he can give you a close to league average offense and pick it well at third, it's going to help hold it down. But someone needs to fill in on what was I think some of their best production and one of the few guys in that lineup that I think you can fear at points from a power perspective.
To quantify the slack that the Giants are going to have to pick up, since May 1st, Chapman has a 149 WRC plus, second on the team to Heliot Ramos, while leading the team in FWAR and hitting 7 home runs. He was playing great, and he has just been playing great. Like, he signed with the Giants, and you think to yourself, huge ballpark. Probably just going to maybe not finish out his career, but probably just take a step back offensively.
Kind of be like what Arenado is now, a little
Exactly.
bit. Like,
but
but
instead, he has been one of the best third basemen in baseball and then just continued that this year. So this is a big hole. And I love the point that you were talking about Adames. It has to be him. I mean, you signed a huge contract this offseason, a couple of months to kind of get yourself settled. He did hit a big home run on Tuesday. Again, it's against the Rockies. So it's like, but can that get him
going? Do you call it a
going?
comeback against the Rockies or is it evading defeat?
I mean, the Rockies did try and lose. That is accurate.
Like they remind me of the South Park episode where like none of the kids want to play baseball, so they both try to lose. And they're like playing each other, trying to lose against each other, so they don't have to play baseball anymore. Like that's the Rockies feel like.
Your guy Zach Agnes, his ERA is climbing.
Don't worry,
Don't
my
worry.
my guy will lock in. Don't you worry.
So
Um,
after the break, we are going to talk about one of the greatest reliever seasons potentially ever. And he's on the Colorado Rockies. But before that, let me tell you about our friends at Rhythm. I want to speak to you guys about Rhythm.ai. You may have heard me talk about it for a while as I use them to make all of my projections for my MLB and my NFL bets. It's an app that uses AI to make their own player prop and game predictions, as well as help you make your own model. So if you're betting baseball this season, you need to check out Rhythm's newest feature, Power Trends. It's like your advanced stat dashboard, but instead of just looking at expected ERA or swing rate, it's showing AI detected model patterns where bets have consistently won and have a high ROI or return on investment. Let's say strikeout props are hitting 68% of the time when a pitcher has an 80 plus win probability and odds between minus 110 and minus 130. That's a power trend, and you can only find them on Rhythm. The models find it, Rhythm highlights it. You just tap and bet smarter. Use the link in our episode description to sign up and use code JustBaseball25, all caps. Again, JustBaseball25 for 25% off your first month with a 7-day free trial. If you don't like it, just cancel. But I have a feeling that you won't. And we wouldn't tell you about a paid subscription unless I actually use it myself and I love it, as does my bank account, right? So if you want to lock in the lowest price for all sports, use code JustBaseball50 for 50% off. Again, it's rhythm.ai. You can find the link in the episode description. And now, our first break. So before the break, we were talking about how Zach Agnes, Arms and Jack's favorite player, starting to decrease a little bit. Starting to, not a great downward trend. But Jake freaking Bird, an elite reliever, coming off 2 perfect innings against the Giants on Tuesday with 5 strikeouts, lowering his ERA to 1.41. He has thrown 22 innings at Coors Field this year. Did you see my tweet? Do you know how many earned runs he's allowed at home this year?
No, I didn't see that.
1.
What?
1 earned run at home. 2 runs technically, only 1 of them has been earned. It's like a 0.4 ERA. And it isn't really
the last time out, 2 innings, perfect, 5 Ks.
Yeah. He was dominant against the Giants. And it isn't luck. He's got a 2.53 expected ERA while striking out 33% of batters. Start throwing his slider as his main offering. Opponents are only hitting 159 against it, throwing it 40% of the time. I mean, everybody's going to be calling the Rockies to get him at the deadline, but let's say the Rockies don't trade him. He could be going for history, Aram. I went down a rabbit hole. Steve Reed in 1995.
I have no idea what that is.
Me neither. Pitched to a 2.14 ERA in 84 innings in the Rockies bullpen. He made 71 appearances for a 2.51 ERA plus, which again, reminder, ERA plus is graded on a 100 scale, kind of like WRC plus. It's park adjusted. It's also era adjusted, so you can compare players across different eras. Jake Bird has a 3.27 ERA plus.
That's
He's
insane.
227% better than a league average pitcher. That mark would be tied for the 8th best ERA plus in MLB history. And in the 21st century, the best mark is Pedro Martinez's 2000 with a 2.91 ERA plus. Because obviously pitching at Coors Field is really, really difficult. And when you adjust it for the park and the era, Jake Bird is legitimately putting up right now one of the greatest pitching seasons we have ever seen in the bullpen.
If you look at the only home run he's allowed to, the one to Matt Chapman, it was a grand slam on May 3rd that would, like, it shows 402 feet center field. Like, if it was it wasn't at Coors Field, I would imagine, because I'm looking at it on the map of Coors Field, and it would have held it. Obviously, would have probably carried more as well. But yeah, that's it. The only home run he gave up is a grand slam to Matt Chapman, ironically, to tie a bow on the conversation. But I'm fascinated on how many times he has struck out like the side. And he's had 2 outings this year where he's pitched multiple innings and struck out 5. Like, that is disgusting. This is really fascinating. How much control does he have? They should just extend him now. Like, if you found a guy that can pitch there, give him a 10-year deal. He's 29. Give him the Bogarts deal, just at $2 million AAV. Let's see, Jake Bird, Spa Track. What's the contract situation here for my guy? 3 more years of control after this one. I mean, I'm sure teams are going to be calling left to right.
Yeah.
They may just hold on to him.
I kind of want him to hold on to him. I want to see if he can make history.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because then it would be harder to maintain that ERA plus. Also, they held on to Jacob Stallings last year at the deadline when he was playing really well, and then so that they could re-sign him and bring him back, and then they just released him. Welcome to Rockies baseball, baby.
I know you mentioned Bogarts. We have a couple other topics to get to. Do you want to talk about him for a little bit, or do you want to save that for more of a deeper dive next episode?
deeper dive next episode because I
Okay.
want to go deeper into that. It is fascinating. There's a quick teaser on that. It's just like Bogarts, he's against 94, fastball's 94 plus. He has an OPS below 500, but an in zone contact rate of 96% and a 90th percentile exit velocity of 106. So some people might say, oh, well, then it's going to get right. I don't know actually, because somehow still the contact quality is bad. So I need to dive deeper into this. But it basically seems like the harder he hits the ball, the lower the launch angle goes. So it's just like this horrible tipping point. But I'm excited to dive deeper into that, and hopefully he can get right.
Because you're saying the harder he hits, it's on the ground.
Yeah, basically the harder he hits the ball, the more straight into the ground it goes, and then the higher the launch angle, the softer the contact.
So when you hear 105, that's just on the ground, so it's not really helping him.
No, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
helping.
So we'll do a deeper dive into that later. Anything else on Jake Bird?
No,
Greatest reliever
that's
maybe
insane.
ever?
That definitely is an underrated story.
Also, how about Steve Reed? I mean, oh my, I mean, 214. I was looking at best Rockies relievers ever. I was like, oh yeah, Houston Street, Rafael
Houston Street.
Betancourt. These guys are pretty good. None of them have been even close to Jake Bird this season. I mean, it's early, right? We're recording on June 11th, but it's fun. It's fun to look at these types of things and just keep tracking him because on potentially the worst team ever in all professional sports, they could have just this diamond in the rough who, while the rest of the bullpen arms are giving up 9 runs and the defense isn't helping him, he's just dominating. And he's not even allowing the defense to hurt him because he strikes out everybody.
Yeah, it's actually crazy.
It's incredible. All right, let's move on to another lesser known arm who's also shoving. Shane Smith of the Chicago White Sox and his 2.37 ERA. It's 13th among all starters. Coming off a 6 inning 1 run performance against the Astros, where the White Sox won, and now the White Sox have a winning record in June against the Tigers. The
And the Pope
Royals.
wore their hat today.
Sorry?
I think the Pope was wearing a White Sox hat today.
It's coming up all White Sox, baby.
Yeah.
Winning record in June again against the Tigers, Royals, and Astros. But I'm curious because, you know, you're evaluating these guys as prospects, and Shane Smith is new to the scene. Did you see this coming? I mean,
No.
it was got to be impossible to see this coming when evaluating him as a prospect.
Just title this episode "Aram is washed." I didn't even have him. I didn't even have him in my Rule 5 preview.
Oh,
And I should have because he went first, obviously. But like, he just wasn't one of the top arms. I legitimately remember getting to the bottom of it and being like, "There's a few other arms." I was like, "They probably could get selected." I don't need to write up anymore. I wrote up like 20 plus. The crazy thing about Shane Smith is, what would you say his best pitch is?
he doesn't I wouldn't say that he has a best pitch. I think they all just kind of work well together.
Yes. So that's part of it, where it's
Yeah.
like you just have this arsenal across the board. Guys like that, one, fastball needs to be pretty good. The fastball's ticked up a full mile per hour, actually
Yeah.
closer to 1.5 from where it was at in the minor leagues last year. He didn't even have a changeup last year that he really relied on at all. He like almost never threw it. So a guy that like is going to attack you with 4 different offerings. Well, the fastball wasn't as good, and he didn't even have that fourth offering. And then he is just totally adjusted the breaking balls to where they're looking completely different. But the changeup I think has been huge for him. He's throwing it like 22% of the time, and opponents are hitting 111 against it. I think from like a production standpoint, you could maybe argue that the changeup is his best pitch, and he didn't even have it last year. So that has been a huge aspect of this whole thing. But then throwing the slider about 3 ticks harder is crazy, like 3 full ticks harder. And then I don't know where he went somewhere. Like he went, whether it was maybe the White Sox and Brian Bannister, which like that's the one thing I will give the White Sox credit for. They do get their arms right. Like, or at least they do seem to develop arms a little bit better than everything else. Whether it was the White Sox or Driveline or wherever the hell he went, he definitely went to a pitch lab of some sorts and just redefined his entire arsenal. And it's night and day. It's really cool to see.
I mean, he's a 25-year-old who's 6'3", 240 pounds. I mean, this is a building block for the White Sox. And,
Yep.
when you're writing up their system, what do you think the rotation looks like, let's say 2027?
Well, it's interesting because they just fast tracked Grant Taylor, who he was going to be on the top 100 list, just fell out of the top 100 because of the move to the bullpen. But they moved him to the bullpen, and he's throwing 102
Buzz.
with Ride, and like it could be kind of this Mason Miller starter kit type of situation there. So you move him there. It's been a frustrating year from the two lefties. When you look at Noah Schultz has not been as good as you'd hope. He's been fine. And then
Also,
Hagen Smith, I think he's dealing with injury, and it was obviously really rough from a strike throwing perspective before. I still think you bake those guys into the conversation as soon as next year. You figure they can get right. That rotation with a Shane Smith, who you need that like consistency, right? I think you need like a higher floor guy when you have the higher ceiling guys that you're mixing in there. Davis Martin looks like he can potentially be another innings eater for them.
I wonder
But
if they
then I
trade
think
him. I
you
wonder if
look
they
at the
trade
future.
Davis Martin.
They could trade Davis Martin.
Yeah.
He's 28. I honestly,
Yeah.
with the emergence of Shane Smith, I don't hate that idea at all. You
Yeah.
move him, but I think you look at the rotation in the future. It's Hagen Smith, hopefully in there. There is the bullpen risk, but then Noah Schultz in there as well. Like that is a fun rotation that can get strong pretty soon. You're going to get Drew Thorpe back off of TJ. You hope that Wilcom and Gonzalez starts throwing more strikes, but they have a lot of guys that if it doesn't work out in the rotation, they have great upside as relievers. So they're going to just have a lot of arms that I think is really exciting.
And Taylor, I'm sure White Sox fans listening to this, like the hairs on their forearms just stood up a little bit when you said Mason Miller starter kit. And it is a Mason Miller starter kit. The guy throws gas. But I am curious, and I even saw Elijah Evans post this on Twitter. Would you rather have a lockdown leverage reliever, which I think he can be? Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Elijah's overstepping that. This stuff is
No.
outrageous. Or potentially a high risk number two starter just because the stuff is so good, but you don't know exactly how it's going to transition to 5 to 6 innings every night.
Yeah.
They have interesting decisions to make, but it's the first time in a while where they have irons in the fire.
Yeah. Well, and it could be like that. Like I was talking about it with Elijah. Actually, like it could be that crochet path where, like, okay, you've got the reliever now, and then if you think that the command has come along enough, you can then maybe bring him back into the rotation. My concern is that like there's a lot of effort in that delivery. I noticed that even when I saw him in the Arizona Fall League, and I have a really high confidence interval in him being a good leverage arm. I I can see the number two upside, but the confidence interval dips
Yeah.
even just on the pitching ability, on top of the fact that you compound then some injury risk as well that goes with that. And I can kind of understand the relief side of things now in the short term and just getting him up there. And then maybe they feel like that can help him eventually get back into the rotation. But at first I was a little bit apprehensive, but the more I just continue to watch him, I can understand the delivery kind of screams reliever. And if you're getting, yeah, I mean, Mason Miller was a guy that like they had to make that decision to move him to the bullpen, right? Because of some injuries and also just because I think wanting to get the most out of him. And it's clearly helped mitigate the injuries. And clearly it's turned him into a more valuable asset. So that's obviously the highest end outcome. But if it's anything close to that and you have a higher confidence interval of that happening, I can understand the move.
Let's move over to Will Smith. So we talked about on the LA Dodgers, of course, talked about some underrated storylines. That's what we've been doing this entire episode. And you may think Will Smith underrated, but has anyone checked in on Will Smith outside of Dodger fans? Because he's the sixth best hitter in baseball, and I feel like nobody cares.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't hear anything about it. I honestly didn't even realize he was that good this year.
He's hitting 320 with a 163 WRC plus and a 926 OPS. He's got the highest walk rate of his career at 15%. He's hitting the ball harder than ever before. Incredible numbers against breaking pitches when he's known to be a fastball hitter. And another interesting stat, pulling fly balls at the lowest rate of his career, which you wouldn't expect for a guy who's putting up his best offensive season to date. And this is a growing trend now with Will Smith that I've been incredibly impressed with. And that's why, everyone's stamping Cal Raleigh as the best catcher in baseball. And how could you not? He is. But I just always want to continue to put Will Smith in these categories because I feel like he improves on something every year. I
Yeah.
remember when Will Smith first came up, he destroyed velocity. The harder you threw, the harder he hit the ball. Breaking balls would get him, though. And defensively, he was a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't receiving the ball very well. Not a great
They were
blocker.
stealing on him. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were stealing on him all the time. And then the defense started to improve. And right now, he's a above average receiver. He's got a good pop time as well. Now, grading out wise, metrically, Not a great blocker. We'll see. But the main point of what I'm trying to say is that Will Smith improves year over year. And this is another improvement for Will Smith because he's always crushed fastballs. And year over year, he's gotten better against breaking balls. But this year, Arm, do you have the numbers pulled up about how prolific he has been against off speed pitches? I just remember
Yeah.
this from doing the research before. He's hitting over 400 against changeups and splitters.
So what's interesting is, you mentioned the air pull side of things, and like people always talk about how air pull is king, and like I could do a whole episode on that. I was actually talking about it in the Discord a little bit, as to like why it can be really helpful for guys, and also it can be something that is a give and take, right? Because I think for guys that are on the low end of contact rates, you could have Pete Crow Armstrong, you want to get the most out of the times that you are making contact. If you're not putting up elite exit velocities, you want to have a really high air pull because the times that you are making contact, you want it to leave the yard or have a high expected slug. On the flip side, if you're a guy that's hit over power, but it's way skewed towards hit over power, like the raw EVs aren't that great, being able to pull the ball in the air consistently is going to help you slug more than the exit velocities would imply, a
Like
la Isaac Paredes,
Jacob
right? So
Wilson, too.
that's why you have two guys on opposite ends of the hit tool spectrum that are, and approach spectrum that are, both benefiting from air pull. But if you're somewhere in the middle, I think it can sometimes be detrimental to pursue it because if you are really trying to do that and you're, above average hit, above average power, and it's kind of the above average across the board, that desire to get to air pull can cause you to be in and out of the zone a little bit more than maybe you would have initially been. And I think you're seeing a Will Smith now who maybe given up a little bit of the game slug, if at all, in exchange for staying on pitches longer, maintaining his direction, and being able to use the whole field. And that's why against secondaries, he's hitting 360, 477, 573. I basically just queued up everything that's not a fastball and a sinker. It's 1,051 OPS. Because again, I think he's able to stay on the ball longer. His path is probably, I think, more in the zone earlier and later. And at the same time, he's still hitting fastballs pretty well. But I think in a world where you're seeing fastballs less than ever, it was a really smart adjustment by Smith to be able to account for hitting secondary stuff better. Because, yeah, you mash fastballs, but you're seeing less and less fastballs in Major League Baseball every single year. So how do you level yourself up? By crushing everything else that you're going to see more of.
That was a fantastic breakdown. And you know what it makes me think too? I mean, beyond the 10-year contract that he signed, I mean, Dalton Rushing is gone. What do you do with him?
I have no idea.
I mean, you cannot take Will Smith out of the catcher spot. You just can't. And you're contractually obligated to do it anyway. So even if you wanted to, you're paying him all of this money. I mean, Dalton Rushing could be an MVP candidate, and he still wouldn't get this because Will Smith is legitimately an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
which makes me think he's getting traded for a pitcher at the deadline and probably a big one.
it's giving Michael Bush. It really is like where he's just playing so sporadically rushing and he's struggled. He has struggled. 11 games he's punched out 20 times. But it's so hard when you're playing every few days and you just pop in there and you're also still trying to just acclimate to catching at the big league level. I think there might be a point where they say, is this the best thing to do for Dalton Rushing? And if they end up sending him back to AAA, like, yeah, just move that guy. Because that could be a guy that gets you a major piece. No doubt about it. He could be one of the best prospects available on the trade market.
Quick side note, you mentioned Michael Bush. I saw this tweet yesterday from Joe_obvious. And I quote, I went down the rabbit hole to compare Anthony Rizzo's first 700 at bats as a Chicago Cub versus Michael Bush's first 700 at bats as a Chicago Cub. And the comparison is kind of crazy. 4.5 WAR for Rizzo, 4.7 for Michael Bush.
Wow.
Rizzo leads in hits, but Bush leads in homers. And they both have a 118 OPS plus. Rizzo has the slight lead in slug, but Michael Bush has a higher OBP. Now it is different because Rizzo was 22, 23 when he started with the Cubs, and Bush is 26, 25. So there's a few years there. But to see that, like if you are a Cubs fan, remember we just talked about don't get so upset, Cubs fans, about the Michael Bush trade.
Yeah.
You potentially have your next Anthony Rizzo.
which is
I
crazy.
mean,
And then people would say like, "Oh, well, he's sheltered from lefties," but like,
who cares?
I'm
He's facing righties 80% of games. Like he's going
yeah,
to play
and the WAR
130
output's
games.
right there.
He's going to play 130 to 140 games this year and be like a really good first baseman. Like I don't care
Yeah,
if they shelter him against lefties.
yeah. I think they should just let him go most of the
Yeah,
time,
sure.
anyways.
Let him go.
Yeah, like let him play. Let him play left on left. See what he can do. He's gonna be good enough against righties, and then righties will come out of the bullpen. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point, and he's also a very underrated player
Yeah.
in the game right now, especially because that offense is so potent, top to bottom. That I think you can overlook him a little bit. He's hitting in sometimes a 6 hole or sometimes a 7 hole, which is nuts. I know he's hitting cleanup a lot of the year early, but now they've had him more in the 6 5 6 hole. It's easy to forget that this guy is a well above average big league bat.
Also, just to wrap up on Will Smith, don't you think it's appropriate to add him to this? Like nobody's talking about him.
What, Will Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually nuts how little shine he's getting. Like where does he rank in WAR?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at WAR. I
I'm
just looked at
I'm dialing
WRC.
it
Plus,
up
he's got to be
right
really
now.
high.
I'm dialing it up right now. Because I'm like, I know that you're loaded with just studs across that team, but yeah, he's 19th in WAR. It's funny, right next to Alejandro Kirk. But I mean, offensively, at a team that's loaded with hitters to be that impressive, it feels like it's not being talked about much at all.
Next up, Andrew Abbott. And I literally wrote down Andrew Abbott is the Messiah. He's just been unbelievable. Tuesday against the Guardians, he threw a complete game 3-hitter with 5 Ks, first career shutout. And it was his second time facing the Guardians. So there was some familiarity there, and it just did not matter. He lowered his ERA to 1.87. Opponents are hitting 184 against him. He's got a whip at 0.97, and he's got the second lowest hard hit rate in baseball among pitchers with at least 60 innings. And what makes this even more impressive, Aram, he's pitching at Great American Small Park.
Yep.
Guess what his ERA is at home?
Oh, well, it's got to be sub 2.
2.27.
Okay, I was gonna say like, is it gonna be something just disgusting? Like 2.27 at Great American. Oh, that's got to be an insane ERA plus. If we're talking.
Incredible. Yeah, I'm sure if we queued up ERA plus, he's got to be near the top. I mean, he is, and he's working with so many different pitches. There's deception in his delivery. But really, I mean, what shines at the top with Andrew Abbott, he's the greatest pitcher I've ever seen with runners on base. I mean,
Yep,
it's obviously that's hyperbole. He's not, I would have to go back and look at all the numbers.
he's up there.
He's up there. I mean, this guy's a wizard. Like, he doesn't have elite stuff. He's not striking everybody out. But in terms of a guy who knows how to get outs, there's a short list, and Andrew Abbott is on it. I
With
mean, this
runners
guy,
on, opponents are hitting 151, 232, 256 against him. It's a
it's incredible.
487 OPS.
It's incredible. And it's so funny. It's like, how is he jamming guys with 94? I mean, I was watching that
It's like
Guardian start.
92.
Yeah, 92 even. I mean, it's like I'm watching like, I mean, Jake Fraley and TJ Friedel did have incredible catches in this game that definitely did help Andrew Abbott.
No, but that's what he does. He roots them on. It's
But
like the
he's
Tom Brady screen passes.
jamming guys. The changeup nobody can touch. The slider looks really good. I mean, when you look at the Reds, I mean, Nick Lodolo is a good example of someone who, like, I mean,
You get it because he's funky as shit.
no, but I got to be careful because I have asked for Ellie De La Cruz to be traded. Not actually, but that is now a running bit on our show. Like, Nick Lodolo might have to get traded. His numbers at Great American Ballpark are horrific.
Yeah.
He's got like an ERA over 5 at home, and this has been a multiple season trend. ERA on the road for Nick Lodolo was like 1.3. He's outrageous.
He may request a trade.
But that just goes to show it's really hard to pitch in this ballpark, and
Oh, yeah.
especially for Andrew Abbott with consistent runners on base
And a fly ball pitcher.
and a fly ball pitcher.
He's a 31% ground ball rate, and no one's leaving the yard against him in Great American Ballpark.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
He's
It's
so good.
definitely an underrated story.
And again, he's another guy where he's fun to watch because it's quick. It's just bang, bang, bang. I mean, it's not Scooble, but it's almost like a poor
It's
man
quick.
Scooble in terms of throwing strikes, working quick, and getting you through innings. Obviously, Scooble's just so outrageously amazing, but it is, Scooble's 100 with the fastball. Andrew Abbott's 93. Scooble's best pitch, the changeup. So does Andrew Abbott. He's not Scooble, but he's If you
School light.
squint your eyes,
What's amazing is he actually pitches to fly ball contact more at home. I wonder if hitters are just so used to like being in Great American Ballpark and seeing pitchers try to evade contact in the air that it almost catches them off guard. Like the fact that he has a 25% ground ball rate at Great American Ballpark this year, and he's only allowed 4 home runs and allowed a slug of 362. He's not afraid of the short porches. It's just it's not a concern for him, and I love that confidence.
and that's why I brought up. You mentioned, guys getting caught off guard. Maybe they haven't seen him before. I mean, this is the second time he faced the Guardians and he threw a 9 inning shutout. Now I know it
Yep.
wasn't in Great American Ballpark, but still,
Yeah.
this guy's been
It's
so
impressive.
freaking
And he did to the
impressive
Cubs, like doing it to the Cubs as well. And he had to face them back to back. Like
twice.
facing the Cubs back to back and combining for 12 and 2/3 innings of 1 run ball. He's clearly got something going on.
And the Reds are hot right now. I think they've won
Reds and the
5 in a
Blue Jays.
row at the time of recording.
Yep.
I need it. We got 80 plus wins at plus 130. I was literally on the field of Great American Ballpark telling Reds fans, you know what was so disappointing about that? Do you know what the most common thing people came up to me and said when we
Why?
were, yeah, like, don't do it. Like, you're going to be wrong. They weren't even like, yeah, man, jump on the Reds bandwagon. We'll be great. They're all like, what are you doing? But like, what do you
earned that
mean?
money. Why would you do that?
I was really disappointed. I mean, they were
Uh.
super nice, but they were just like, that bet's going to lose. Hell no. We got to win 80 plus. We got to win 80 games. We're a couple of games over 500 right now. Reds, we're rolling. Let's have
Got
a
a
little
shot.
bit of confidence. Right? Or am I the only one?
I don't
Are
know.
you even
man.
on the bandwagon?
Not really.
God
No.
damn it.
No.
I am. Go Reds. All right. Last but certainly not least. I mean, I think I post about this guy every day. Every day. Is Denzel Clarke already the best outfielder in baseball defensively? 8 outs above average in 17 games. And I want to put that in perspective. Ceddanne Rafaela, the Red Sox, one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball, has 10 outs above average in 64 games. Pete Armstrong, because Cubs fans, as soon as they heard that, they might have even turned off the podcast. PCA has 11 outs above average in 67 games. Victor Scott, who's up there for his defense. I know he's been better offensively, but that's his calling card. He has 8 outs above average in 62 games. Julio Rodriguez has been incredible defensively this year. He's got 8 in 65 games. Aram, Denzel Clarke has 8 outs above average in 17 games. And he made one of the best catches I've ever seen. But it's so funny because he makes catches that are a little bit easier every game. I think he's got 2 robberies on the season. He had this one catch where he ran. It felt like he was playing right field, and he ran to left center and crashed into the wall. Still came up with it, walked off. The range on this guy.
It's crazy.
I mean, he can't hit, right? He's got a 51% strikeout rate. He's hitting 177. But the reason they're putting him out there is because he looks like, I still go back to it. Like when Buxton is gliding around the outfield, that's just my favorite thing to watch. This is better. He's faster and longer. It's incredible.
There may not be a bigger dichotomy between like offensive output and WAR than Denzel Clarke if he gets a full season. And
yeah,
it's crazy because I do think the bat could get to a point where it's decent enough. Over some time, I didn't think he was ready for a big league call up, but I mean, they must have just been seeing what he was doing defensively out there and saying, like, this guy could help our pitching staff significantly just by his ability to go get it. I don't know if I've ever seen 8 outs above average in 134 innings. Like that is absolutely insane. Like 8 outs above average in 17 games essentially means he's making a game-altering catch every other game.
Yeah.
And making a lot of others that make a positive impact in between. Like it is really remarkable to watch him do this. And I think he may have had like a throwing error or something like that mixed in there, like that probably docked the defensive run saved at the very least. Like this is a guy that I would love. I hope he can get it going a bit with the bat, because if he plays a full season, we might see the best defensive season of the Statcast era. And I don't think that's crazy to say. I'm very curious. Like I want to watch what makes him better so far this year than like a Pete Armstrong, because Pete Armstrong does stuff on the field I've never really seen in terms of the jumps and the closing speed and the finishing ability. But maybe Clarke has just had more opportunities so far because the pitching staff gets teed off on a little bit. But that's part of it, right? So I am really fascinated, and I want to do like a video dive kind of comparing these two. But we thought nobody would be on par with PCA, and I think it's very clear that Clarke is.
I mean, I could speak to that a little bit when watching these A's games. Like Denzel Clarke went after all of his incredible catches. When you're watching the live broadcast, they like do the film of his jump. It's immediate. And if we're talking about sprint speed, closing speed, he is lightning fast and he's so long. He looks like a wide receiver out there
Yeah,
playing center field. While PCA looks like a legit center fielder, this guy looks like he was planted in our game from a different sport. He is gliding and getting to balls like Julio Jones.
yeah. I
He's
mean,
got the
6'4".
size, he's got the speed, he can jump. That's what I think makes him so impressive. While PCA is so fast, his jumps are so good, and he is so smooth. I think Denzel Clarke shares all of those attributes, but it's in a 6'4" body,
Yeah, yeah.
and he
Just
can
being able to
launch.
just
But then you
chew up
watch him hit, and
ground.
you're
Yeah,
like,
it's
please just stay up in baseball so I can watch you play defense more.
yeah. I really hope so. I mean, he hits the ball hard. It's just he's got to hit the ball. So it'll be cool to see those two just kind of battle it out over the course of the year if Clarke is able to, just stay up. And I think he's going to buy himself a lot of time with the stick if he continues to defend this way.
Are there stats that look at jump?
I think
Because
they have that in Statcast. You just gotta like dig around a little bit more. But dude, PCA's jumps are stupid.
I mean, he's Cedar Rafael is incredible too.
I like. How do you separate? Like, what do these guys do at this point? I literally do think that the biggest separator right now for Clarke is opportunity, and he has
Could
just
be.
seized every single opportunity he's had.
I mean,
And
the
that's part of it
A's
though, like closing the plays out.
the A's bullpen has a 7 ERA since May 1st. Like
He's
their
running a
starting
lot.
pitching is
He's
horrible.
got his back to the infield pretty
There's
often.
there's a lot of long fly balls. Actually, think about it from PCA. Every reliever has a 0 ERA. He's not really getting that many opportunities.
Yeah,
That's actually a good point.
yeah. I mean, Denzel Clarke is basically has his back to the infield every other play. So, yeah, that probably plays a part in it.
I do wonder what PCA stats would be if you just let him play his 67 games for the A's. Like, would he have 20 outs above average right now?
He might.
He
He
might.
might.
So, anything else before we go?
That's all I got. The only other thing I wanted to mention was just Anthony Siegler. Guy's gonna get a big league opportunity, I think,
You had to
soon.
mention it. Like,
I
why?
had to because underrated storyline that we've talked about him a little bit earlier when we did like the prospect report. But the first round pick, which we've talked about it, of course. You didn't like the pick at the time, but
By the
just the
Yankees.
fascinating aspect of this. He was a switch hitting catcher who was never really good at any level. Got a little bit better last year offensively. That brought his OPS and his career in the minor leagues up over 700. Yankees let him go as a minor league free agent. He signs with the Brewers, and the Brewers signed him to AAA. Last year he had stopped catching. He was only playing second base, really. And now with the Brewers, they have him catching a little bit again. He's playing second and he's playing third, and he even played a game short. What I'm floored by is I don't know if I've ever seen a guy with such a high average exit velocity compared to his max. So his max exit velocity this year is 107, but his average exit velocity is 92. That tells me he's just finding the barrel every freaking time right now in AAA. He's hitting 307, 444, 521. They may have like this like infield version of David Fry on their hands here with the Brewers, and it's been pretty cool to just watch him. A guy that I thought pretty much his career could be toast. Like I thought it just there wouldn't be much else in terms of opportunity. Like I didn't really see a way that he would be able to hit his way to the big leagues, and he's going to get called up. It's going to be a pretty cool story.
So I think the reason that Aram is bringing this up, I mean, he wants to highlight Anthony Siegler. I get it. But Anthony Siegler, I remember watching my TV during the draft, and I say to myself, we drafted who? And they're
It was a
showing
good
highlights
pick.
of him. It's like of him juggling, like not even playing baseball. It's like juggling and
He can
talking
throw with
about
both arms.
how he can throw with both arms. And I'm like, but he's a catcher. What do you mean? I don't need him to throw left-handed as a catcher. And they put up the stats. He like didn't even hit all that well in high school. He hit pretty good. I was like, what are we talking about here? He was our first round pick. Then he goes to the minors and he was terrible. And I'm thinking
And
to
there
myself,
he is,
what were we doing? Goes to the Brewers. Now he hits everything hard and he's playing second and short and third and catcher.
chasing at a 15% clip. Everything's in the air. It's like it's legit. Like that, I'm bringing it up because like it looks legit. It's a cool story. So I just if you're in a really deep fantasy league, if they continue to get poor production from third base, like he started to play third a little bit more lately. It may happen.
So he's taken over Caleb Durbin, another former Yankee.
He may if Durbin doesn't get it going soon.
So that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed. The best way to support, rate and review Spotify, Apple Podcasts, 5 stars. And if you would be so kind as to leave a written review as well, telling us what you are enjoying about the show, as well as subscribing, liking, commenting on YouTube. Arm and I got to get out of here because we are flying to Omaha, Nebraska for the College World Series. So you'll see plenty of content surrounded there. So make sure also, because we're going to be giving out plenty of college baseball content, but our guys at On the Clock, follow them on social media. Check out their podcast. They do such a good job. Tyler, Jared, they're phenomenal. Make sure to go check them out on social media at On the Clock One. You can find it on X, on Instagram, on TikTok as well. So make sure to go give them a follow. For Arm Layton, I'm Peter Apple. We will see you on Friday. And with that, thank you, everybody.